welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. This conversation with Dr. Russell Marz, I must say, was mostly focused around the health of our planet. But as we discuss, our individual health is intimately dependent on the health of our planet. So, as Dr. Russell Marz has done with his life and his practice, he has shifted his focus to really taking care of the planet above all. And the great thing is, as we talk about, as we do that, we are also taking care of ourselves, of course. We, in this conversation, we cover all things nutrition for sure. We talk about, a plant-based diet for individual health and the health of the planet. And Dr. Marz was fresh off of his speaking engagement at the CowCon, which we talk about a little bit. That was now a couple months ago, but he shares his experience from that and so much more. Dr. Marz is one of the most vibrant, energetic, fun people to be around, and I really thoroughly enjoyed his presence on the podcast. Hope to have him back. And now I guess I'll just introduce him a little bit more. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Food and Nutrition in 1979 from Buffalo State University in New York. In 1983, he earned his Doctorate of Naturopathic Medicine at the National College of Naturopathic Medicine in Portland, Oregon, now the National University of Natural Medicine. Dr. Marz is also a licensed acupuncturist and earned his master's degree in Chinese medicine and acupuncture in 1994. Dr. Marz has taught both basic science and clinical nutrition since 1988 as an assistant professor of nutrition at NCNM, Western States Chiropractic College, Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, and the Oregon College of Oriental Medicine. He published his first book in 1992, Medical Nutrition from Mars, and the second edition in 1997 and 1999. He is currently the medical director at the Tabor Hill Clinic in Portland, Oregon, and in 2015, he was inducted into the National University of Natural Medicine Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Russell. You can learn more about Dr. Russell Marz by visiting his website, www.marznutrition.net. That's M-A-R-Z, nutrition.net. So without further ado, why don't we just sit back and relax and enjoy this longer but very fun conversation with Dr. Russell Marz. First of all, welcome to the podcast, which you don't even know what a podcast is, but now you know.
Dr. Chung was talking about podcasts all the time.
He was sitting in that chair.
He was. Okay, yeah. But he's doing whatever for his thing, cardiovascular and such. So
that's what we were talking about, and I want to talk to you about other stuff.
Sure.
The other stuff. I know you're fresh. Well, you told me you're fresh off of fast, which is an annual event for you.
4 times a year, actually.
Oh, 4 times a year.
So, but this is the big one. This is the one that cured my hay fever, basically.
All right.
I mean, I was going to move out of Portland because it was so severe.
Wow.
I mean, it was like 3-4 months worth. And June, though, like June 1st, every June 1st, it would start up. I'd be out training on the bike. This is triathlon season. I'd have to sneeze like 20, 30 times in a row, get off my bike, just blowing my nose, and just go home, go to bed. I got so sick.
But no more with the fast.
With the fast was very interesting because, every year I start the fast June 1st. Except this year it was CowCon conference.
Which we're going to dive into next.
We're going to dive into next, but, I put the fast off till I got back, which was on the 3rd. And the next morning, my receptionist was observing me having several allergy attacks.
Some sniffles, huh?
Well, it was more than sniffles. It was like, eyes are itching and nose is red and you're sneezing and just you feel like just someone beat up on you and stuff. But then I dove right in that first day. I got back on my fast and I did 2 weeks. So I started Sunday night when I got back from the trip. That was the last food. I think I had chocolate. And then went into it, had a gallon of apple juice in about 7 days. I went surfing that next weekend with Dr. Hubbard and his kids. We went, and I was like, the kids I'm sure were like, wow, he's not eating. They haven't seen me cheat.
What's wrong with him?
Yeah, what's wrong with him? And he's out there surfing for like 5 hours. How's that possible?
Superman.
Yeah. Well,
super. Just your average, ordinary human being.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that ironic? The average human being could easily do that, but their spinal tumor, which is the extension on the end of your spinal cord, that brain that's swelling, gets in the way, which it usually does.
Yeah.
Our whole society has been brainwashed into this matrix. Hard to get out of it.
For better, for worse.
Well, for worse. I can tell you it's for worse. Yeah. There's no question about it.
All right. So tell me about CowCon. What was that like, and what were you talking about? Because you were like, not, I don't know if there was a keynote speaker, but you were main attraction.
I guess I kicked off the second day, so I consider that. Usually the first talk is keynote talk. So I was the first one on Sunday. Silas Rao, Dr. Rao was the first one on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Dr. Chung had applied to speak there because somehow he found out about this before me because I'm tech-tarded, he's not. And as soon as I heard, bam, I went in. And we were hoping to both give a talk about, our prospective interests. And then they sent back, they said, well, we're doing these TED Talks. So they're going to be
a shorter thing.
Yeah, like 25 minutes. And when Tara invited us, she was like, well, you can both do it together. And I'm like, 2 of us, 25 minutes? I can't even speak myself for 25 minutes. I'm going to need longer than that.
Yeah. So this is like an opportunity to debrief a little bit. So how did that go? Well, first of all, what is the CowCon?
Well,
because I've only recently become familiar with.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I don't even remember how I found out about it. Well, Dr. Chung and I are hot on the heels of this whole environmental, as he likes to call it, plant-based, and I call it vegan because I want to give vegan a more, friendly name.
Yeah,
like right now,
it's got kind of a negative.
Yeah, it's
rap.
A negative.
Yeah.
Like vegan. I was just watching some kid thing. Mikey Mike. I don't know. I don't
what's
never.
Vegan Mike the vegan.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I love him. Yeah.
Anyway, I play in this table tennis league, and this guy, was telling me like, oh, Mikey Mike, and there was one like funny scene where he's like got some kid, by the neck, like holding out his hand, and then like he throws him across the room, and it's like, how'd you do that? It's like, well, I'm vegan. And anyway, he goes like, well, how could you become a vegan? Well, anyone could become a vegan. You just don't eat anything with 2 eyes and that looks at you and has a consciousness. Anyway, so it was a funny video I'm going to have on my next lecture.
Cool.
I'm going to put Mikey Mike in there.
Yeah, so CowCon is kind of like, would you say it's a vegan conference of sorts?
Well, I don't know. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I found out. I was, doing the internet browsing lectures. Mostly I watched documentaries. And there was one documentary. It was actually from a conference that Dr. McDougall did. And there was a guy on there. And Dr. McDougall is a good guy. He's a good guy. I don't agree with everything he says, and he's a little rigid at times and stuff. And I think you can eat more exciting than he presents. But anyway, So he's at his conference. He had this guy, Richard Oppenlander, who's a dentist, Dr. Oppenlander. And he introduced this speaker, and I had never heard of the guy, and he gave this talk, And, my jaw started getting lower and lower and lower because he had some really interesting information that he was disseminating, which was about the carbon footprint of animal agriculture, and includes fishing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been vegetarian for 41 years, and so, okay, that's all fine. But then when he started going into more details on how, our land is being used and how much water cattle use, and the fact that, free-range cattle actually have a bigger carbon footprint than, feedlots. It's like, it's interesting. And so I became sort of obsessed with this information.
Yeah.
Bought his books. He had a couple books. And then there was a conference down in San Francisco called CalCon. And it came out at the time that Cowspiracy documentary came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember if I saw the documentary first and then went to the CalCon conference. Anyway, I thought I should check this out. So Dr. Chung and I hopped on a plane. We were the only naturopaths at the conference. It was well attended, and there were just some great talks. Dr. Will Tuttle was there. Dr. Silas Rao, who is now my mentor, I met there.
Yeah.
And, Richard Oppenlander was there, and we were like, wow, this is, these feels like home to me, these guys.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say it's definitely more focused on the environment, the environmental implications of eating meat versus vegan versus like the health, personal health?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Because we're all connected.
Yeah,
here.
It's all tied in, It's like you can't separate them. It's like mind, body, spirit, It's tied together. And so a lot of these people were more animal activists, is what my experience was. But they were getting into environmentalism, and which is my favorite documentary, Cowspiracy, was really an eye-opener because it showed not only the environmental connection animal agriculture has, but it also shows the fact that environmental groups and the CEOs and the people that are connected are all tied, financially to all of these other groups that don't have an interest in the environment. But they put on this sparkly face, blah, blah, blah. And when he went and interviewed these people, Greenpeace refused to interview him. They refused to go and talk to him because they knew he was going to bust them.
Yeah, no, I mean, these documentaries definitely they're dividing. They're very polarizing. But I think regardless of which side you stand on this whole debate that we find ourselves in kind of constantly, I think that the idea and the way that it just brings light to what's happening. Yeah. We need to see what's happening in order to consciously choose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
otherwise we're just being kind of,
led like sheep.
Exactly.
Led like cattle right down the path to the slaughterhouse.
Yeah. So, I mean, we already talked about how environmental issues are tied up with individual health. Like you and me are, our health is dependent on the environment. So how is that? Could you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes like perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that we can only be as healthy as our planet is.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like a big, broad statement. So how might that be the case? How might that be true?
Well, I mean, if you understand, the whole biology of our whole planet, everything is interconnected, obviously. I mean, you start cutting down the trees in the Amazon, of which they're cutting down 180,000 acres a day, which is beyond anyone's comprehension. 180,000 acres are cut down. The main reason, 80% of the reason, animal agriculture, to grow corn and soy, genetically modified, to feed them, and then also to graze them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I became a vegan 2 years ago. So 3 years ago, I started to become vegan because I became more conscious of like, geez, I got to really, I got to get on board with this thing. And, the mad cowboy, he was in the Cowspiracy movie. He made a, pretty bold statement. He said, hey, if you consider yourself an environmentalist and you're not vegan, you're not an environmentalist. Don't kid yourself, because you're hurting the planet.
Yeah.
And by not advocating as a vegan, you're also harming the planet. So just being a vegan is not enough. You got to be an activist. And that was kind of the theme with this conference, that we all need to be active.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into what that means.
I keep sort of skirting your question a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's all right. I definitely want to get into what it means to be an activist, because I think that also is like, gets a bad reputation. It's like enough activism.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. But so back to like the environmental and physical health connection. So trees are getting cut down to, for farming and whatnot.
Yeah,
to eat meat.
Farming animals growing all this genetically modified crop. And that's killing the bees. The bees we need to pollinate all of, fruits and vegetables and almonds. It was quoted by Einstein, like, when the bees are gone, we got 4 years to go. It was an incorrect quote, but I'll use it anyway.
Yeah, and bees are still living, obviously.
Yeah,
but they're dwindling rapidly.
Yeah.
So it's the bees, and I think about just the carbon dioxide. When you don't have as many big trees, you're not cleansing the atmosphere.
Yeah, the lungs of the earth. 25% of all oxygen on the planet is produced by Amazonian trees.
Maybe it was. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know now, but so here's one. So there's all this talk about Sibo and paleo diets, and I get nauseated hearing about this. And we look at what's causing Sibo. Okay, antibiotics. Okay. In the United States alone, 35 million pounds of antibiotics are used on a yearly basis. Of that 35 million, 28 million are used in animal agriculture. So what do those animals do? They pee. They pee in the water. It goes down the Mississippi, goes in the Gulf of Mexico, kills all the fish, kills all the bacteria, the plankton. And what do we have? Dead zones in that beautiful Gulf of Mexico. In fact, there's a great movie, Mission Blue. I'm on a campaign to Mission Blue. Everyone needs to see Mission Blue. It's a nicely done movie. It's a biography. Sylvia Earle is a famous oceanographer who, basically spent her entire life logging about, all the different species of algae and stuff. And, she's just in shock what's happening down in the Gulf of Mexico. So she said when she was a kid, there was one oil rig that was pumping oil out of there. Now there's over 250 of them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and then the spill of the oil. So, that's a problem. So, and people don't realize that, they drink water. They may be getting some antibiotics in their water. They're eating animals that have antibiotics in them. You get that. It's just pervasive in our environment. So that's creating dysbiosis, Sibo, leaky gut syndrome, allergies, the whole 9 yards.
The gut microbiome is such a huge topic, and we are kind of like, reductionistically looking at the gut.
Right.
But what's causing it?
Yeah, what's causing that?
Like, we're all concerned about this bacteria, that bacteria, balancing, but more macro.
Yeah. So, So my of course, I've been teaching nutrition for, 30 whatever years at all the different naturopathic medical schools and some chiropractic schools. And so I think one class designated me as Dr. Fiber and Dr. Magnesium and Dr. Flavonoid. So I was like, I like that.
I'll take that.
There's
better than the alternative.
Yeah. And, and it's like, and there was a quote in What the Health, the documentary. It's like, about protein. And I'm also kind of tired of hearing about this protein issue, because we get more than enough protein that we need. Even the, the vegan of vegans gets enough protein.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Yeah. So I don't, this is obviously a little tangent, but that's totally fine. I love it. But I'm not really into the macros, but what would you say is enough protein? Or is counting macros enough?
Well, I mean, I think that it's important. I mean, my undergrad degree is in food and nutrition. I was the last person to graduate with a degree. It was based, it's designed to get your master's and PhD. And they eliminated my program, when I left, So, basically, one of the things I appreciated was just nutrition 101. Like, how do you figure out how much protein you need? Well, one, you get deficient. And then you add protein back in. And this was done experimentally with probably prison inmates. Who knows who they used? Volunteers, And you keep bringing up the amount of protein until, protein contains nitrogen. And then you excrete protein in your urine, your feces, and your sweat. Not much, a little bit in your sweat, but, urine's where you see most of the nitrogen. So you keep increasing the amount of protein until the amount of nitrogen that you're excreting is equal to the amount that you take in. And that's how much protein gives you an equilibrium, balance. 150-pound male is going to require about 22 grams of protein.
That's not very much.
No. But, and I think it's good.
Yeah.
The RDAs are set in a bell curve to cover 2 standard deviations. So this is like basic science stuff. So, you want to cut 2 standard deviations above the median, you cover 97.5% of the population. That's the RDA for protein. That comes out, to 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. 150-pound person is going to require about 54 grams of protein. RDA.
Not to prevent them from being deficient, but just to cover the wide 2 standard deviations.
To cover the 2 standard deviations and also to be, a little bit above, the minimum, because it's set, 2 standard deviations above the highest. If you have 100 individuals and you check how much nitrogen balance it took, they're going to take the highest one. And from there, they do 2 standard deviations. That gives you how much protein you require. It ain't much.
Yeah. I mean, I've been, on a, consciously low protein diet, and
it's hard.
I can't
it's hard to
get below 30 probably.
Yeah.
If I tried.
It's hard.
I mean, unless I was drinking water and apple juice like you.
Yeah.
Then you know.
Yeah, you got broccoli has more protein than certain cuts of steak. And people, I go to the restaurants and Asian restaurants and they say, "What do you want for your protein?" I say, "I want double the broccoli." No, what do you want for your protein? "I want broccoli." "Did you know broccoli has more protein than beef?" And they're like, "Whatever, dude." No, not in Portland. In Portland, they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should, you might want to read the book Proteinaholic by Garth Davis." Good reading, well referenced, and basically dispels that whole myth of you got to eat like all this protein. Barry Sears, when he came out with his book, The Zone, he was one of the beginner persons to start out, him and Dr. Fatkins, who died of a massive heart attack in New York. I was in New York when he passed away, and they tried to cover it up. Well, he had a heart defect, but, needless to say.
You could look at him and before he died and assume that he's not the healthiest guy.
I mean, you look at Sally Fallon, and you look at her, and I'm like, I don't want to look like her. Yeah. And it's like, and they've also bastardized the whole paleo program. I believe I introduced paleo to naturopathic medicine in school. The book came out in 1986.
Well, thanks a lot, Russell. Look what you've done.
I know, but they've bastardized all of the work. Yeah. When you look at if you get the book and you read it,
right?
Like one of the big things is paleo people get between 100 and 150 grams of fiber a day. Have you ever tried to get 100 grams of fiber?
I actually don't count fiber,
I
but
know you
I bet I'm pretty darn close. I mean,
I bet you're not.
really?
Well, it depends how many calories.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, for me to get that much fiber, geez, you just have to eat a lot of food.
Yeah. I
You know?
mean, your plate is overflowing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because it's plant food, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, we only eat 1/2 of 1% of all edible food on the planet.
Yeah.
That's like, how come we don't eat salal berries? We were out,
Ooh, I love those.
and they were ripe. Where
Yeah.
we went in Southern Oregon, there was several bushes that had ripe berries on them that we ate.
Amazing.
Why don't they grow those things?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it's all money.
It's
It all has to do with economics.
for sure.
Blueberries, people want to eat blueberries, which are great, but
Yeah,
salal berries are no slouch.
Yeah. They're
Marion berries, all those
good.
berries.
They're good.
Maki berries.
So where were
Where are we going? Yeah, we're going
Where were we?
going to Mars. I'm taking
Going
you
to
a little-
Mars. Well, there's no fighting going to Mars, but
What do you mean? There's no fighting going to Mars?
no, I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight it. I'm going to Mars
Okay, yeah.
gladly.
Well, I say that in jest because of Elon Musk's thing and Mars, and it's like, dude, we got the best planet anywhere in the solar system. Why would you want to go to Mars? Just fix what we got.
Totally, it's like
And
we're
it could
giving
be-
up.
It could be, yeah. It's like
ditch this.
it's like,
rock.
I'm going to another. It's like, have you saw the movie The Martian, which was great?
Potatoes.
Potatoes. He had 4 vitamin deficiencies and mineral deficiencies. Now, can you name them? You didn't do yours.
B12. I don't know.
No.
There's B12 on Mars.
I'm trying to think now. That wasn't part of my list. That wasn't the more obvious.
Magnesium.
No.
Vitamin C.
No, vitamin C's in potatoes.
Selenium. Zinc.
Depends what was in the Martian soil.
exactly.
Zinc.
Yeah.
Zinc was one of them. He was deficient in zinc. That's why he got a skin disorder. Think about skin.
Now you're putting me on the spot.
Yes, you're right.
Oh boy.
What goes with zinc always? Epithelial tissue. Come on, Ben.
Epithelial tissue, zinc.
Vitamin A, vitamin A,
Yeah.
vitamin A. He was deficient in vitamin A. There's no vitamin A
Needs
in
some carotenoids.
white potato.
Yeah.
If he had grown sweet potatoes,
Boom.
he would have been much better. He was also deficient in essential fatty acids. Wasn't much fat he was getting there.
Yeah.
And he was also deficient in vitamin D because
Hey,
you got to
Yeah.
get that from the sun.
for sure.
Could have got that
Yeah.
from the sun. Anyway,
We could have helped him out.
so where were we going with that?
Yeah.
We were going somewhere. The Mars.
Well,
We started.
I mean, do you think that, one question that I always have, and I'm curious about your perspective, do you think that given the whole state of the environment and where we're going, do you think that shifting to a more plant-based lifestyle will do the trick? Like, because that's what I hear, that's what everyone's saying, but I'm curious, do you think it really will?
Not the way you said it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
you
need-
can
we
you
need-
can tell I'm a little
Yeah.
pessimistic.
Yeah.
on this
Yes. Why you have every right to be pessimistic.
Yeah.
Look who the bonehead at the front desk is. So and we get that's just a distraction. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't spend any time. I didn't even watch Saturday Night Live because I don't need to waste time with this moron. It's like we got bigger broccoli to saute. It's like we don't want to fry fish because they're endangered and stuff. So moderation. I say F moderation. There's no moderation.
Yeah, moderation has gotten us
that's-
exactly
yeah,
to this point.
Exactly. So if everyone adopts immediately, like Dr. Silas Rao says, if we transform from the caterpillar that we've been our whole existence into the butterfly that we're meant to be, yes, we can change this around, but it has to be a gestalt. It has to be a 100th monkey. It has to be everyone's in on the deal.
That's kind of my question. So everyone's got to be in on this.
Yeah,
it's not like I've been hearing people say, "Oh, we just need 10% of the population here."
Well,
or maybe the 10% is the 100 monkeys.
Yes, the 10%'s the 100th monkey.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't know if you went to, when Jeffrey Smith spoke about genetically modified foods 7 years ago at one of our conferences here. Basically said all you have to do is turn about 5 to 10% of people on, the moms, and they'll affect everyone else.
Onto
avoiding and being aware of genetically modified foods and not eating them.
Do you think we're there? Where do you think we are with GMO?
I don't think we're there yet because, the dark side is strong, Luke. And to get past the dark side, you have to put light on it. And, some people don't want to look where there's light. They just want to live lives of quiet destitute. Yeah. And that's not okay because we all have to be on board.
Totally.
And those people will come aboard eventually when we get that 100th monkey because they'll say, okay, I guess I can't eat meat anymore. I'll just eat this, genetically synthesized meat, and that'll be fine. I mean, we have this image in our heads about the old West and the native population killing buffalo and eating them and using their hides. Well, those days are done, dude. We got 7.6 billion people on this planet. We're going to hit 9 billion in another 30 years. We're toast. The stuff's shrinking. The water's rising. Miami's pumping water back into the ocean. Otherwise, it would be under the water. That's crazy when you think about how many coastal towns there are. So we need to act really soon. So, it's really interesting. I'm going to go back to your nutrition versus, moral dilemma about killing animals and using them for our needs. I mean, when you look at it, it's absolutely barbaric. We slaughter 70 billion animals. That's 10 times the population, humans do all around the world. That's crazy. 70 billion animals per year. Yeah. That includes fish. It's like, you can't do that anymore. That's not going to work.
Yeah. So what do you think the answer is?
Well, you want to get healthy?
Yeah, of course.
Who wants to not get healthy?
That's what this is all about.
So I go down. This is the second CalCon conference. They skipped a year ago, and they had this when I went down there. And it was a funny little story because I'm like, chomping at the bit. I'm like a pit bull on a poodle. You just let me out and, get me up there. And Kip, one of the directors of the movie was like, oh, he's talking about blue zones. They're not vegans. And so he was a little concerned. So Tara, his main front person, contacted me in a bit of a panic. And she's like, well, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, I know what you're thinking. I got you covered. So what I'm going to do, because no one's been talking about the health aspects, they've been talking about environmentalism and the ethics. I want to talk about nutrition. That's my shtick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present these blue zones, healthiest people in the world. You want to do what they do. Pretty much mostly all vegan. There's no 100% vegan except for some of the Seventh-day Adventists. And they live a long time, those vegan Seventh-day Adventists. So it's like, can we make these centenarians, can we make these blue zones healthier by not eating animals? I mean, all I eat's a little bit of, pork once a week in Okinawa. I do eat eggs in Sardinia, eggs in Costa Rica. They do have some chicken and stuff, but it's like only a small part of their diet. They interviewed Michael Pollan in the first Cowspiracy movie, and they said, okay, you got 9 billion people coming to Earth. So on a practical standpoint, how much meat and dairy could a human eat? And he's like, I don't know exactly, but if I was to make an educated guess, I'd say 2 ounces per week.
That's how much meat the earth could produce to feed 9 billion humans.
Yeah, that's what, of meat and dairy
Sustainably.
Sustainably, yeah. So it's like, what's the point of that? Why would we slaughter all those animals and waste all those resources so we could get like 2 ounces? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And what could you substitute? I had this talk with Dr. Tori Hudson, one of our esteemed colleagues and mentors. And, you know, she was quizzing me about the ideal diet. And I was like, well, for every calorie of animal stuff that you're eating, you're ingesting all these environmental toxicants. That's a problem. You're getting more animal protein. The number one correlation with cardiovascular disease, the number one killer, is animal protein. And then 3, you're losing the opportunity to get precious flavonoids in your diet. And also fiber, which I wanted to get back to. Because that's, you know, you talk about Sibo and gut dysbiosis. That's what's missing. That's what they talked about in Cowspiracy. We're missing, or what the health is not where you get your protein from. Where do you get your fiber from? That's the bigger question. Because fiber is what generates all those wonderful fatty acids that feeds lactobacillus, feeds the good gut biome, and makes everybody happy. So you got to put the fiber in there.
Great point. It's really interesting if you consider that the standard Sibo diet is low fiber.
Yeah.
Low fiber, high protein.
Yeah.
It's backwards, back-asswards.
Yeah, and you know, and people may get better individually. And it's true, you know, my recommendations for someone who has acute colitis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, is to cut back on fiber initially.
Just because it's a lot to handle.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle, and gradually ease it in there. Like people that say, I can't eat beans. Well, you can't eat beans because you don't eat them. If you don't eat them, you can't eat them.
You don't have the bacteria to
You don't have the
handle
bacteria to handle that.
Yeah.
Now we realize there's bacteria. There's a, you know, in my talk down in the CowCon, I was like talking about broccoli and how beautiful broccoli is. It has glucosinolate, and there's an enzyme in broccoli, myrosinase, that is deactivated if you cook the broccoli in too much water, or if you microwave it, you damage it, or if you freeze the broccoli. So this is all substantiating why we need fresh food, because those enzymes, which when I was in my younger career, I was like, enzymes, what do you need enzymes for? You got that inside when you eat food. But now it's coming out. There's a wonderful book. It's called Foods to Fight Cancer by Gingras and Bellevue, 2 French guys I never heard of, didn't know anything about them. And their book is one of my favorite books on nutrition. And it's not a vegan book, but it might as well be.
Right.
The only thing on there is a couple of small little fishies. And you can get, what do the fish eat that get, for example, astaxanthin? Well, they eat algae. So why don't we eat the algae? There's gazillions of 20,000 algae out there we don't even eat that are loaded with nutrients, flavonoids, vitamin A, carotenoids. As Louis C.K. said, just eat the shit on the floor. It's all around. Grind it up. Make some bread. Make some, you know, toast. What are you doing? You know, it doesn't have like bacon wrapped around. See, I like bacon wrapped around this thing over there. Anyway, if you see when God comes back to Earth.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good skit.
It's a great skit. It's like
pretty relevant.
Totally makes sense. You know, it's like totally.
And yet it's a comedic thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
So
like, why can't we actually like listen to what he's saying?
Right. Well, now he's in the doghouse,
Yeah.
you know, for good reason. But, you know, maybe he'll come back as a vegan and he'll exonerate himself.
Yeah. Well, why? I mean, so the main pushback that I feel and hear is, well, there's a couple. There's the people who think that there's no way you can possibly be healthy by eating plants. And then there's the people who are like, well, I just want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just want to like soak it all in.
I just want like
and
bacon wrapped around it.
I just want the bacon wrapped
you just
around
want
it.
double bacon, cheese dribble all over.
So what do you say to, I mean, I think we can leave the health part aside because we've kind of like covered, you can be healthy. I mean,
Oh,
You can be healthy as
that's
eating plants.
I mean, Rich Roll. I mean, I'm just a measly little naturopath over here, but I have done 385 triathlons to date. I've won probably 7 or 8 of them. Won my age group dozens of times. Anyway.
And you're only 127?
Yeah, 127, planning to be 145 or so. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no question about that. That's hogwash. And it's, I've done triathlons fasting. So I don't know if Rich Roll's done that. Boom. Rich Roll, who's been a vegan for 10 years, did 5 Ironmen in 7 days in Hawaii, all 5 islands. Totally vegan diet.
Yep. So
he's a pretty,
we can kind of shove that to the side.
Yeah.
I don't even like to have the conversation really anymore, which is the best diet.
Well, I do. I want to debate. I want to debate anyone. You come up with a diet. You write it down on paper.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay. Don't even get me
excited. But like that aside, my point is like that aside, because maybe people can be healthy enough eating some animal fat.
The healthiest people in the world in the blue zones eat some meat. Right. They don't need a lot of meat, and the way they prepare it is also different, which we can get into that, but we won't. You can be healthy eating meat. You can certainly be healthy not eating meat. And if you add some little fishies in there, you get some really incredible nutrients in there. Great. But the question is
the cost.
The cost on the environment. If we get rid of that and substitute those with maki berries and annatto, which we use for food coloring, but now I have a product that's going to come out that's an annatto extract, tocotrienols, and it's like, wow. I mean, we could add all these other foods in replacement, and that will make us even more healthy because we'll have more flavonoids, more trace elements.
Yeah.
I mean, so, that argument, it's like, oh, we've always done that. Well, yeah, we've been killing each other since our existence, our civilization. They asked Gandhi once what he thought about Western civilization, and he said, oh, I think that's a good idea. Because Western civilization, has got us to where we're at right now, and it's not in a good position. So, the argument of like, oh, we've always done it this way, and it's like, yeah, we've cut down trees. 99% of all our forests are gone because that's how you always did it. Oh, my family's been loggers for 5 generations. Great, you're mass murderers for 5 generations. You've cut down. So there's a place out, Camp 18 on the way to the beach. I stopped in there about 2 years ago for the first time.
Oh yeah, I know that place.
I met the owner, the woman. She gave me a tour. There's a picture on the wall of this magnificent 10-foot wide tree with a cutout in it and 7 of her grandkids as toddlers, all like sitting, and the cutest picture you ever wanted to see, sitting in this cutout. And I asked her, I said, how old is this tree over here with the kids in there? Oh, it's about 700 to 800 years old. And it's like, why would you cut a 700 to 800-year-old tree down, like to get like wood?
Yeah.
That's murder. That's a travesty. And these are the lungs of the earth. I mean, this tree's been here 700, 800 years. You cut it down to make money and wood.
It's the ultimate human,
we can.
tragedy.
Yeah, because
it's like
we can do
we're
that.
We're just exercising our humanness.
Yeah,
and
that's
we're just being
our God-given.
It's our earth. And
our God-given earth.
Yeah.
This is for us.
So I want to get back to this question. I'm curious about what you say to the person who just wants the bacon wrapped around everying.
I say, well, you want like atherosclerotic plaques wrapped around your carotid arteries. I mean, my goal is to like.
But some people don't really.
They don't care about that.
I mean, maybe they do, and maybe they're denying that research, even though it's like overwhelming.
It's clear. Dr. Kim Williams, who is the executive director for the American Heart Association at one time, said, if you're not advocating a vegan diet for your cardiovascular patients, you're not doing the research.
Yeah.
The research is clear.
You're not reading it. And Colin Campbell said, there's, from his perspective, which kind of rung true with me, if it's a healthy diet for the heart, it's a healthy diet for everything. It's not like you eat one way to treat your heart and one way to treat your kidneys and one way to treat your diabetes.
That's, So, what's the argument? They want to have their bacon. They want their $1 hamburger. I see up on the big billboard we have now, McDonald's. You get your big gulp for $1. Great. Genetically modified high fructose corn syrup subsidized by the government. You got your single burger. That's $2. And then you got your double burger, and that's $3. Oh, I could feed my whole family for $15. That's the way I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. How much fiber's in there? Like half a gram, maybe. And then all the toxicants in there. So, it's like you're sitting here with me and you're smoking. I don't want your smoke. Those are my lungs. When you eat that hamburger, you're smoking in my air. You're one of the main causes of deforestation, antibiotics. It's like people don't get that, because it's not as clear as when you're smoking. Like you're eating hamburger, you're eating this fish. I stopped eating fish, 3 years ago when I became on my way to veganism fully at 2 years. And at first I only did sheep cheese and goat cheese, and then 2 years ago I was like, okay, done. No more eggs, none of that. And I seem to be doing okay so far. Oh, that's just you, they say. I could never do that. Of course you can. Mm-hmm. It's like you can never fast. Your body's been programmed for millions of years to fast. You have all the mechanisms. Your brain actually loves ketones after 3 days on a fast. It's like, oh yeah, you get all stoned and high and feeling really good. Mm-hmm. And that's a normal biochemical, phenomenon that happens. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it didn't just happen by accident. We've evolved into that. Mm-hmm. So
some people see that and see the truth to that, and they say, oh, well, then the ketogenic, diet, like, if we're evolved to run off ketones, then shouldn't we be doing that?
Yeah.
Like that's, for the person who wants the bacon wrapped around it, then that's like, that's the option to like be healthy, right? Right? Isn't that like, okay?
Well, this is a debate. How do you determine the ideal diet? Well, for me, who lives the longest in the world? Let's take a look and see what they eat. The Blue Zones. Mm-hmm. In August, there's the International Nutrition Conference in Washington, D.C. that I'm going to go to. I'm going to meet Dan Buettner. I haven't met him before, who wrote the Blue Zones, and Barry Wilcox, who is the author of the Okinawa program. So I'm dying to talk to those guys. I'm going to talk their ear off for sure. And, it's like, why wouldn't you, if you want to play tennis, why wouldn't you study Rafael Nadal or Roger Federer or Djokovic? I mean, you go to the best. So why not study the Blue Zones? I went to Costa Rica 2 years ago. I took blood from 18 centenarians, analyzed their blood. I spent $10,000 of my own money analyzing their blood because I want to find out what do they look like. In Okinawa, they did that study. So it's like, let's look and see what they eat. They're all 70% carbohydrate. There is no ketogenic longevity diet. That has never been shown to be true. What has been shown to be true is calorie restriction that leads to a ketogenic diet.
Which is a natural phenomenon.
Natural phenomenon, not eating ketones or
not this like biohacking our way to it.
Yeah, like eating like a ton of fat, the Fatkins diet. You pour heavy cream and sour cream on your bacon and you eat that and you're going to be healthy. Come on, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that ain't good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. No, I loved that. Thanks for diving in and tearing it apart.
Yeah. Well, there was the Bulletproof Diet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the Bulletproof.
Who doesn't know the Bulletproof?
I know a lot of people don't. But anyway, famous, blah, blah, blah. Asprey, what's his name?
Dave Asprey.
Dave Asprey got on a debate at a talk show with Garth Davis. Garth Davis wrote.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Proteinaholic.
Yeah.
And he just carved him to bits, Garth Davis. He was like, bulletproof coffee, throw a bunch of toxic fat in your coffee and slug that down. How's that good for you? You drink a bunch of coffee with fat, you're going to get a buzz. Might last a little longer because you got that fat in there, and it keeps you full. You don't get the munchies and stuff. But where's the nutrients in that? There ain't no nutrients in that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's poppycock.
Cool. We'll leave that there.
Yeah.
We'll leave that there. I really want to. I've been kind of holding off on diving into this piece because you've referenced it a couple times.
Yeah.
There is, from Russell Marz said it himself, that there is an ideal diet.
Absolutely.
There is an ideal diet. So let's talk about what that looks like.
So Roy Walford, who's a famous researcher that everyone should know, wrote the book Maximum Lifespan back in the 80s. He studied down in Berkeley, University of California. I can't remember, in the area there, and basically did an amazing amount of research on calorie restriction, which is now becoming much more popular.
Totally.
And he just studied at animals and bacteria. Amazing. If you haven't read that book, it's a great read. I was reading it again. And anything that we've ever studied, nothing comes as close. Nothing comes anywhere near calorie restriction for extending your lifespan. It cures diabetes. It cures heart disease. Certainly cures obesity. Mm-hmm. It cures joint pain, arthritis. I mean, you go down the entire list. Cancer. Everything is better with calorie restriction. Anti-inflammatory diet. There's nothing better than a fast. As naturopaths, we learned if someone has an acute case of gout, fast them. They got arthritis, fast them. And this has been shown time and time again for a number of reasons. It reduces the amount of inflammatory compounds and allergy compounds that you're exposed to. If you're not eating, you're not going to get these compounds constantly being exposed to you. So you're generating many less free radicals in your body by eating less. So now the question is, okay, how much can we eat? What's calorie restriction? Intermittent fasting. So one of the chief mentors for Roy Walford is Walter Longo. He wrote the book, The Longevity Diet, came out a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And he has a whole thing about putting you into ketosis. Now, his diet is pretty much mostly vegan. And he's not a super strong advocate for veganism, but I would say moderately strong, which is good. Mm-hmm. So let's start with calorie restriction, the ideal diet, and then work our way from there. Let's go to the blue zones. Well, there's no fat centenarians. You don't make it to 100 as a fat person, your history. So what do they eat? 70% of their calories are carbohydrate. They eat a lot of fiber. The Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, one of the 5 blue zones in the world, amazingly healthy. There's a physician who's just recently stopped doing surgery, but he was like 102 years old, and he's out working on his... the guy's pretty impressive specimen. He's been a vegan for a long time. So now what's being studied for intermittent calorie restriction, intermittent fasting, if you want to call it that, is the length of time between meals. So they've studied if you eat 1 meal a day, the same amount of calories versus 6 meals a day. 6 meals a day, better. all your numbers improve. 2 meals a day, 12 or more hours between feedings, opens up a new world. You're going to eat less calories. You're going to be calorie restricted. You still get to eat your food because you need a certain amount of food to get your fiber, magnesium and selenium and flavonoid, all those things. But plant foods don't really have that many calories, so you can eat more of them. Of course, you can eat a very high-fat plant diet if you want. I mean, nuts and seeds and whatnot, avocados, but not necessary. So I like the infinitesimal parts of an ideal diet. So it's like, let's look at how much selenium are you getting in your diet from whatever it is that you're prescribing for the ideal diet. How much magnesium? Magnesium, number one mineral, macro mineral deficiency, which is the cause of heart disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, fibromyalgia. It's all down the line. So your diet needs to have, and they talk about this in the Paleolithic prescription book, those nutrients and the amount. And when you look at it, it's like, I want to use that as my gold standard for the ideal diet. I'm going to take what they eat in the blue zone. Of course, that's changing now because it was different. The Okinawans lived for more than 50 years. Those Okinawan centenarians lived, 80% of their calories came from sweet potatoes because there was a big embargo on Okinawa. That's all they had. So they were calorie restricted because they didn't have any food, but they had sweet potatoes. So one of the best foods you can eat, really, for a number of reasons.
Cool.
And the last thing, potassium. So potassium is a critical nutrient. Almost every cancer therapy that's been devised, alternative cancer therapy, uses potassium as one of the key ingredients because potassium and magnesium alkalinizes your blood. All these anti-inflammatory diets, anti-cancer diets, they want to alkalinize your blood. No better way than potassium. The average American gets 2 grams of potassium a day. Well, Max Gerson recommended 12, 14 grams for his therapeutics of potassium a day. No way in hell you could get that much eating animals. Animals don't really have much potassium in them.
And they get them from plants.
They get them from the plants. Fruits and veggies, which, again.
Yeah. So how about, could you give us like an example day, maybe meal plan of this ideal diet?
Yeah.
Maybe it's your diet when you are eating.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because right now I'm constructing a 3-week detox program for whatever, for the Marz plan. And it starts with a fast. Depending upon who you are, if you're morbidly obese, we might fast you a little bit longer. But the transition is the critical part. So now it's a little different because I can't eat much, but I'm going to have, steamed veggies. Today I had my veggie broth, which has a bunch of veggies in there. No fat. We don't want to put fat in there just yet. Last night I had a little bit of salad dressing, and there's a big debate whether you should include oil in the ideal diet. It's still open for debate in my book. So, let's say you're 2 meals a day. You want to start out with a real nice juicy hamburger, with some mustard and some bacon and cheese. So let's use cream of buckwheat. So that's one of my meals
cream of buckwheat.
Cream of buckwheat.
Like just cooked buckwheat?
No one eats buckwheat. They grind it up a little bit more. You can buy cream of buckwheat, like cream of rice or cream of wheat. Yeah. So instead of buckwheat groats, it's a little finer. Okay, you start with that. Buckwheat has some incredible anti-cancer properties to it. When we eat buckwheat bread or pancakes, there's a little bit of buckwheat, mostly white flour, so it's not really buckwheat pancakes. But, the Ruskies and the Ukrainians, buckwheat was a big food for them. Buckwheat is loaded with magnesium. If you look on the magnesium tables, buckwheat's up at the top. Okay, you got cream of buckwheat. Put it in a nice pan, water.
Cook it.
Gradually increase the heat. but now you're going to add stuff to it.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're going to add some pecans. Pecans have some anti-cancer compounds, and walnuts. So walnuts, of course, are high in omega-3 fatty acids. So you want to get your omega-3s. That's really good. So you're going to put them in there because soaking and heating up the nuts makes a lot of the nutrients more bioavailable. So sometimes, and that's another debate, cooked versus raw. And I think the ideal diet is a combination of both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Some things better cooked. Like my mushrooms, I want to cook my mushrooms. There's a number of toxins found in mushrooms that you probably don't want to eat raw.
Mm-hmm.
Better to eat them cooked. Okay. So now I'm going to add something sweet in there. So I like currants. Currants, the smaller the berry, the more skin to the berry, the more flavonoids in there. So throw some black currants in there. The dark color has got some flavonoids.
Yeah, I like the wild blueberries.
Yeah, wild blue. That's the other thing I add. The smaller the berry, the better. So I put some, usually, if I get, now you can get, fresh blueberries. I'm growing them on my property. But if you can't, frozen's the next best. So you put that in there. So now you're gradually stirring that, and it's making this really nice creamy, because you want it to be nice and creamy.
Yeah, it's got to be good.
It's got to be good.
The best diet in the world has got to be good.
It's got to. Yeah, that's exactly correct. If it tastes like caca-puca, no one's going to eat it. Oh, I forgot. You're supposed to soak the flax seeds at the beginning.
There's flax seeds in here.
Oh,
too.
yeah, of course there's flax seeds. Well, flax seeds have in them Calorie resinol and materesinol, which are one of the with those two compounds get transformed by gut bacteria into enterodiol and entriol, which are the most cancer-protecting substances that we've ever discovered.
Ground flax seeds.
Flax seeds.
Fresh ground.
Yeah, fresh ground.
Yeah.
So I add mine whole, but probably better to grind them and put them in there. I think some of that gets extracted the way I soak them and extract those materials. But that's a really good, I forgot, sorry about the
flax, buckwheat, currants, blueberries, or,
blueberries.
And the pecans and
walnuts.
The
Now
that's breakfast.
Yeah, you're looking at like a serious meal that's loaded with flavonoids, loaded with, all the, you could put, blackberries in there. Black raspberries have allergic acid, which is another really great cancer-protecting substances. So now I've measured out all the constituents. So the amount of fiber in there, you're getting over 40 grams of fiber in that.
How much how many calories, how much buckwheat is it? Like, because you're doing 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember. I should have my paper with me.
Yeah.
I want to say, depending upon how many walnuts and how many pecans you put in there, and a little maple syrup. I use stevia, combination, little stevia, a little bit of maple syrup for the flavor. I want to say like 475 calories.
So are you still aiming for calorie restriction?
I don't even think about calorie restriction. I think about eating Crohn diet. And that was a term, I believe, by Roy Walford, calorie restriction, optimal nutrition. So everything I just put in my cream of buckwheat. Oh, and soy. Don't forget soy. I put soy in mine. There's a big controversy over soy. The healthiest people in the world, Okinawans, eat soy.
Soy milk or soy?
Yeah, soy milk.
Okay.
And there's no goitrogens in soy milk. So this whole thing, Dr. Mercola, with having, this stuff, you're going to get man boobs from the soy because it has those estrogen compounds in there. Soy estrogens are 1,000 times less estrogenic.
Sure. I think the main concern is the GMO, which can be avoided. Maybe.
No question.
Yeah.
There's not.
Yeah.
First, I want to back up and say the soy milk that I'm using. First of all, let's eliminate 93% of all soy because it's genetically modified.
Yeah.
Get that out of here. Now we're gonna go. What kind of soy is the best? Well, Okinawans eat fermented soy, fermented tofu, which is different than the tofu we usually eat. So we like fermented tofu. That's good. But miso soup, really salty, but has some incredible ingredients in there. And soy is loaded with genistein. Genistein, another anti-cancer compound.
Yep.
It's great. Why wouldn't you want to eat soy? And soy is a bean. It's loaded with fiber. And it has essential oils. It has some omega-3 oils in there. It's a great food. It's just how we've totally bastardized this food, genetically modified it, growing it in huge crops. So if you eliminate that, so that gives it an even creamier texture.
So what's after breakfast?
Okay.
So or maybe,
now you're fasting.
Maybe when is breakfast?
You're fasting. So you can either eat, you can eat whatever time is convenient. So we need to work this into people's schedule.
Sure.
It's easier to work 2 meals in than 3 meals.
Mm-hmm.
Now for me, I actually like my biggest meal at night. Controversy over that.
I'm with you, and I know there is some, the Ayurvedic kind of thing. And
eat like a king for breakfast, like a pauper for dinner, blah blah blah. But you know what? I want to eat my food in a very relaxed atmosphere. At night, I'm kind of a night person. I feel like I got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So I got no restrictions. There was a restaurant in Portland, Natural Selection, vegan restaurant. I think it was vegan. 99. Yeah. You go there, you're going to eat 2.5, 3 hours because it's a whole event.
Right, yeah.
And it's a beautiful event. And that's what they do in France. That's why some of those people live a long time, because they eat in a relaxed atmosphere. That's why they don't have jumps in their blood sugar, because they eat slowly. They're not rushing around. I bicycled 1,000 miles through France. I watched them pass by in the morning at 11 o'clock. 2-3 hours later, I passed by. They're still sitting there talking and eating and doing their thing. So eat slow. So now, let's say eat at 10 a.m., the ideal diet. I don't need to eat again for lunch. Why would I need to eat lunch? Most people are not really that hungry in the morning. They force feed themselves. They train themselves to be hungry, which is not bad, because you can do that if you want to eat breakfast. But just when you eat dinner, like I do yoga at 5:30, I'm done at 7. Then I eat dinner, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So now I eat dinner. Oh, yeah.
We made it to dinner.
We made it to dinner.
So there's no snacks?
No snacks. Why? I'm busy. I got stuff to do, people to see, people munching on these bars, these protein bars. Protein. Well, for what reason? You're not starving. There was a woman today preceptoring my office. She's a naturopathic student. And, traditional, background. And, she was and I was quizzing her, and she was getting a little nervous. And she was working on, she was like, oh, I'm really getting hungry. I'm starving, I'm shaky, blah, blah, blah. Let's check your blood sugar. Let's see where your blood sugar's at. Let's see. I said, well, I'm sticking her. I say you're 78 max, 81. I was like, you're not hypoglycemic. You got brain fog because your brain is conditioned, and it's powerful. I mean, Pavlov's dogs, ring that bell, bingo, I'm drooling all over the floor. Not necessary. You don't have to do that. And has she ever fasted? She did a little fast with Dr. Bailey, but most people haven't fasted. Until you've fasted and experienced that sensation of like, oh, I'm hungry. You're not hungry, dude. You have an appetite. Hunger, from a medical nutritional standpoint, is that you are actually breaking down your protein tissues. That's real hunger.
That takes a few days.
Yeah, no, that takes a few months.
Few months.
Yeah, a few months. You might break down a little protein in that little period of time, but real hunger is like you're not hitting that till much later.
Yeah. So you're not hungry in the day.
Not hungry in the day.
So, and you don't got
Now,
time.
I used to be starving in the middle of the day years ago when I first started practicing. Can I tell a story?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Gave me the opportunity. So this is like the beginning of my career. I'm in Montana. My practice is next to Great Harvest Bakery. There was no gluten sensitivity back then. Gluten's good. Whole wheat bread, good. So, get busy. go grab a loaf of bread, eat like a third of a loaf of bread, half a loaf of bread. Good whole wheat bread, chew it really well. An hour or two later, I feel like I've been drugged. Like literally, like someone drugged me. In the middle of patients, I'd like, excuse me, I need to check in the front. I'd go in the bathroom, splash water in my face.
You're just tired and just...
No, somnolent.
Wow.
Just on this like a drug, like got drugged. And I didn't think anything of it. And then a few months later, I moved my office to another location. No food, no Great Harvest Bakery. And I eat breakfast, and then like 2 o'clock, I'd just be like famished, like just like shaky, just, God, I need something, power bar, whatever. And then I got busier and busier, and I went past that feeling of hunger, shakiness, and just, was so busy with, I forgot to eat. And then I'd make it all the way to the end of the day, and I'm like, oh, fine. I didn't really need any food there. And then I would eat dinner. That was kind of the beginning of my 2 meal a day program. And then studying all the literature and seeing like 2 meals a day, really, that's the ideal diet, 2 meals a day. So for dinner, okay.
Cool. I'm
So
excited for dinner.
Now we're going to make rice, but we're not going to have the traditional health food brown rice because it's got arsenic in it, but I'm not too worried about that. But I want more nutrients in my rice. I want forbidden rice.
Yes.
Forbidden rice, one of the best top
stuff.
20 foods in the world to eat, is just, if you cook forbidden rice and you see the purple water, the purple side of the pan, that's got to be good for you. And there's more fiber in that rice. It's chewier. So here's a little tip. I get these little glass little pans. They have lids on them. I make a batch of this beautiful forbidden rice, and I put them in these glass containers. And they're only like an inch deep. I don't pack them real tight. Put the lids on, put them in the freezer. Ready to go anytime, drop of the hat. You want some forbidden rice? You take it out, you put it in some hot water. It melts the interface between the rice and the glass. Flip it upside down, you get this beautiful
you put the whole glass in the boiling water.
Yeah, and it just, basically takes that ice because it's frozen to the thing and gets an interface, and then you flip it over and it comes right out. It's like perfect. Then you take a nice knife and you cut off however much you need. 5 people. It's really simple. You got no excuse. Now I have a pressure cooker, which is also the best way to cook food, and that's not always done in the blue zones, but you could add that. Preserved nutrients.
Yeah.
So now we have that ready to go. Beautiful forbidden rice. So I want broccoli. I love broccoli.
Gotta have it.
Broccoli's
What's
like
a good health food meal without some baby trees in there?
And you throw baby trees and then loaded with protein, and then it's also got of course indole 3-carbinol, which is another anti-cancer agent, and then broccoli sprouts. That's going to be part of our salad, which is loaded with glucosinolate. Which gets
got a salad too.
Yeah, sulfuria, that's coming. So now the controversy begins because I'm going to use a little bit of oil. Ooh. I've cut back a little on my oil, but toasted sesame oil, really nice, high in essential fatty acids. So I'm going to start out with my onions. Going to put some real nice onions. Leave some of the yellow in there because that's where the quercetin is. That's really beneficial for you. So cook with the skins of the onions a little bit. You can't chew them, so people like, you let the onion skins in there. Well, we're doing that for nutritional purposes. So now you're going to throw in some broccoli. You're going to saute broccoli. First the stems, cut them up. You can trim the outside to make them a little more soft so they're chewier. They're not quite as chewy.
I don't mind a little cellulose.
Yeah, it's good. You want that cellulose. Throw in some snow peas. And then carrots. Of course, carrots, cut them on the diagonal. Start to saute all that up there. And now in another pan, you're making this fabulous sauce. And it's my
So you
ginger.
got the rice and the saute and then a sauce.
Yeah. And the sauce we're going to make up with toasted sesame oil and a little bit of arrowroot starch. And we're going to grate fresh ginger into that sauce. And you're also going to grate ginger into your stir fry while you're sauteing it with the toasted sesame oil. Starting to make me hungry.
I
now.
know, we're getting Pavlov's dog
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah. So now the sauce is going to be garlic. You're going to put a ton of garlic in there. Maybe more than most people.
To taste.
Yeah,
Garlic to taste.
The taste. You got the garlic and you got the ginger and you lightly saute in the sauce with the toasted sesame oil and the arrowroot starch. Now you get thickening, and you put the water in there, and it gets into this really nice. And then put some tamari, low sodium tamari in there. That's your sauce. Now you got your stir fry going. You can add many different veggies.
Make it, personalize it.
Personalize what you want. You want some artichoke hearts, put that in there. Chinese cabbage is a fabulous food. Got some important anti-cancer properties that the other foods don't have. So you stir frying all that up. So now you got you can eat that just by itself. Throw in the forbidden rice and you put your sauce on there. Bingo.
Yummy.
Got
Sounds
meal.
like a good bowl.
And then tofu.
Ooh.
I like flavored tofu. They got a lot of different kinds. And so a little trick of the tofu is you freeze the tofu, cut it up into little squares, saute that in toasted sesame oil when it's frozen, and now you have this bacon wrapped around it, this really chewy texture that you get that people love. I love that texture. Hey, I love bacon.
Yeah. For me, mushrooms do that
Oh,
texture.
shiitake mushrooms. I can't believe I forgot the shiitake mushrooms. Yeah. And so, you got to have shiitake mushrooms mixed with some white mushrooms in there. God, I can't believe I forgot. It's in the recipe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have forgotten, believe you me. So you got shiitake with lentil in there, another anti-cancer agent, and you got that all stir-fried up. You can add some kale if you want. Bam, you got yourself a meal.
And a big salad on the side.
And a salad with broccoli sprouts and baby spinach and dandelion greens and, whatever you like.
Mm-hmm.
Little oil and vinegar, olive oil and vinegar.
Yeah.
Well, and then chocolate for dessert and you're good to go.
Cool.
70-80% chocolate.
Yeah.
I want to go to that restaurant.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, a pretty, there's some personal, special ingredients in there, but it's kind of like a standard, like health food dinner.
Yeah.
In
that.
quarts.
You look at the amount of fiber in there and the amount of protein in there.
Yeah. So I guess what my point is nothing fancy. I guess black rice is like the fancy.
I could get some fancier food.
Right.
For you.
Like you can make it fancy, but it doesn't have to be fancy.
I can make spanakopita for you.
It doesn't have to be fancy. This is the ideal meal.
Yeah. You want pizza? I make you a pizza.
Yeah.
I'll make you a pizza that's better than any pizza you ever had. And there's no animal stuff on there.
Totally. I guess that's my point is it doesn't have, it can be decadent.
Oh.
But it sounds like one of the keys is the meal, the time restricted feeding aspect, the late breakfast and the dinner and no snacking.
Yeah. I used to go back to my parents' house, we'd have breakfast, maybe we'd make some waffles or something, and then after we're done cleaning up, we're getting ready for lunch at noon.
Yeah.
And then you're done cleaning up lunch and then it's time to eat dinner. It's like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't need to spend all that time thinking about food. I love to cook. I love to eat. That's no problem. I just don't do it 3, 4, 5 times a day, and I don't snack. Now, I'm no angel. I have snacks at night. Sometimes I stay up till 2, 3 o'clock. I had some popcorn coming off the fast, which is ill-advised. I did okay with that. but I was putting myself in harm's way.
Yeah.
Of course, it's organic.
Well, it's important to, let the angels be angels. We'll be humans.
Yeah,
and we'll be angels at times, but we'll be mostly humans.
Yeah, let's have fun, right? Let's not, kill the rest of the planet off. So we didn't talk about this very important fact about the environment, which and it's Silas Rao brought this to light. I didn't know, but 10,000 years ago, humans made up 50,000 metric tons on Earth. It was 5 million people.
Yeah.
10,000 years ago. That's not very many years ago. So at that time, there were 200 million metric tons of wild fauna. 200 million versus 50,000. Wow, big difference.
Yeah, I've seen the graph, and it's dramatic. It's
a big giant thing. There's little tiny things like, Jupiter and Marz, or Jupiter and Mercury. So now fast forward 1970. Humans go from 50,000 metric tons to 200 million metric tons, the same size as the wild fauna 10,000 years prior. The population and the mass of the wild fauna goes from 200 to 80, less than half of what it was. Yeah. Now, the exponential curve, fast forward 40 years, 1970 to 2010, humans double in population. Now they make up 400 million metric tons. The wild fauna went from 80 down to 40, half of that.
Yeah, it's halving.
Yeah.
The half-life of the wild fauna is just, it's what, 40 years or something?
Yeah.
20 years?
Yeah, 40 years. And now, the food to feed those 400 million metric tons of humans, animal livestock, is like off the charts. It's like 1,200,000 million metric tons to feed those humans. And that food could be fed, to feed the animals, that food could be fed directly to humans without being fed first to animals. That's a really bad, in terms of sustainability, in terms of efficient. No, it's not very efficient. It's stupid. It's like, well, I don't want to eat like hay. Well, you don't have to grow hay. You can grow salal berries.
You can eat the buckwheat porridge and the awesome forbidden rice bowl and
berries and stuff. It's like, people have that argument. Well, the land that cattle roam on, you can't do anything else with it. I say bullshit. You can grow food on Mars. They really did their homework in that movie. It wasn't just like sci-fi. It was like they studied what could be possible. Sure. And they did that in the biosphere also. So, yeah, you can raise cattle, but you can also grow other fruits and vegetables there, and much more efficiently than you could the animals over there.
Totally. Well, we hammered that one in, which I'm glad of.
I think we have. Yeah. And I got a lot. And these meals are fun and good, man. Oh, man, it's like...
that's from my perspective, that's the most important piece to this, is to make it fun and delicious.
I forgot the red peppers. You need the red pepper for the color in the saute.
Well, you need to eat the rainbow.
Yeah, you need the rainbow colors. There's been books written on eating rainbow colors. So, my vision is to create the most fun restaurant in the world. And I was the minister of fun when I was, me and Dr. Burkamp. And so I was the assistant minister of fun. Dr. Burkamp was the minister of fun. Sorry about that. So I want to create the most fun restaurant. It has to be open till 2 a.m. And we're not serving food in a trough. We're serving on these beautiful plates with beautiful glaze and just artsy, it's really nice. It's like, because that's a complaint. It's like dog food in a bowl. I don't want to eat, I have a friend in New York. I don't want to eat dog food in a bowl. If I wanted dog food, I'd get dog food. Yeah. So you have to make the presentation really nice.
Yeah, for the restaurant and then the day-to-day.
Yeah. But you could still make the day-to-day nice.
Make the day-to-day special, yeah.
Yeah, you want a glass of wine? We were just having this argument last night. Got into a little argument. I tried to be zen, but about wine. And, you know, alcohol is a toxicant. No question about it.
Yeah.
How much is a toxicant? It's always a toxicant. Is red wine healthy for you? You know, the French paradox, they drink 7 times more red wine than we do. The research shows if you're a female and you have 1 glass of wine, red wine a night, it's going to decrease your morbidity, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease. It's like a tincture, an alcoholic tincture.
It's like a tincture of grapes.
Yeah,
exactly. We can't forget that the alcohol isn't the healthy aspect.
Right. Yeah.
It's the grapes.
It's the grapes. And alcohol's kind of fun, you know. People like alcohol, let's face it. But if you're an alcoholic, you got liver disease, no, the wine's not good for you. If you got irritable bowel disease or some kind of, alcohol's no good for you. You know, just drink grape juice. But for the average Joe and the average Mary, a glass of wine. The oldest person to ever live, Jeanne Louise Calment, lived in France, in Arles, 122 and a half, drank a glass of port after her evening meal. You know, it's a nice ritual.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. So we can have a wine on the side.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to kind of hone us in to land it, and and I want to kind of wrap up with, you know, there's been so many pearls, so many good kind of things to grasp onto, but what about just some words of maybe wisdom or encouragement for someone who is like ready to consider shifting into like the next level of their health and, you know, consideration for the planet as well?
Well, I think it starts with hanging out with the right people. So I had a patient in yesterday. She was ready to make the commitment. She's got like heart disease all over her family, cancer. It's like she's surrounded by you know, morbidity and mortality. And she's ready to make the switch at this point. She's good. And she's been, you know, kind of transitioning for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been monitoring her blood work and stuff. And she's like, you know, I'm done with that other stuff. I'm good. I'm ready. And like my husband, he's not coming along. So I don't want to cook 2 meals, but you know, he loves his meat, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to go my way. And if he wants to come along, great. And like, good. So I think you need to be inspired. So if someone's inspired, the next thing is to just, you know, maybe ease into it slowly. It took me 3 years. It took me a year to become fully vegan from vegetarianism. Mm-hmm. And I never thought I would give up cheese. I mean, cheese, oh yeah, it's like bacon wrapped around it, you know. Manchego cheese, you know, that was my excuse, sheep cheese instead of cow cheese. So I think, you know, have fun with this and don't be neurotic. Don't develop orthorexia, which is an obsessive compulsion towards your food. Like, I don't think about this, like, you know, but I guess I do. When I eat at a restaurant, I'm not eating at Lardo's. We got that place, Lardo's, down on Hawthorne. I'm like, who the hell would ever eat at Lardo's? I mean,
well, a lot. It looks like a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Based
it's
on
like,
every time I go by.
Why would you eat at Lardo's? I mean, you want to be a Lardo? So I think, you know, exploring restaurants. I have a restaurant list that I give all my patients and clients that I want them to go out and explore different foods. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone has different tastes. You know, Indian food. We didn't even get into the spices thing, but Indian food is this amazing array of spices that we need to use. Cardamom and cinnamon and cumin seed and all that. They have medical properties. They're protective against cancer. Yeah. So I have a top 20 food list and a top 10 spice list.
We'll share those with the audience for sure.
Yeah, so that's a great thing to have. So, you know, go out to a restaurant, we were in San Francisco. We went to the Millennium Restaurant.
Is this the advice for people?
Yeah, this is the advice.
Go out and
eat and have fun, and you won't even know that you're eating vegan food. Now, the greens is not vegan, but you could easily eat vegan.
Yeah.
So go with someone that knows what they're doing. Pick something that seems like it might be good and eat it. And if you love it, you're like halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, may not be able to create that in your own kitchen because, they have special techniques.
That it seems like that leads to the inspiration, being with the right people, just kind of like
hanging out with Roger Federer playing tennis. I'm like, look at this guy. He could play with a tennis racket between his toes and beat you. It's like, wow, I want to be like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like just making a choice to be with the right be with the people that inspire with you, and go to the restaurants that inspire you.
Yeah. You want to be inspired. Go to a potluck, a potluck where they're serving, just vegan food, and you're going to get a wide variety.
Yeah.
Better yet, make up your own thing. Invite people that know how to cook vegan. Have them come. I did a retreat in Costa Rica, one of the 5 blue zones of the world. And the name of the retreat was Surf, Yoga, Save the Environment, and Have Fun. And we had a ton of fun. That was a given, And, we got really, really healthy. Yoga every day. We surfed for 5 or 6 hours, and we ate vegan, plant-based food. And we went to this one restaurant, and it was just over the top. They made this special meal for us because they found out. Yeah. And it was just, everyone pretty much had an orgasm at the dinner table. And we were singing and dancing. You can do all the same things you normally do, just don't kill the animals. It's like, fasting. I've gone to some of the fancy restaurants, went to Bamboo Sushi. I was on an 11-day water fast, and I went there. I didn't even have tea, but I sat there, and I had a great time. And people don't realize that really the majority of going out to eat is just socializing with people, talking to people, having fun, listening to music, hear some jazz music, whatever it is. Do that, but just don't kill the animals in the process. We need to put, as Silas says, we need to put 45% of all the land mass in the entire world is used for animal agriculture. That's unbelievable. We need to give that land back to the animals. Lions and tigers and cheetahs and elephants, they need land. Monkeys. Here's a really interesting thing. Before I did this retreat, I went with Yoga Union, a local, I'm a devotee of Yoga Union. I think they're great. And we went 2 years in a row, and they got the bacon, and it was a yoga, surf, and I don't remember if there was a third thing. But it was really fun. I had a great time, but it was like, and that's what inspired me to do this retreat with no animals on there. But, it struck me, one of the owners of Yoga Union, which I love, Annie, is into this Bulletproof Diet and paleo. And I haven't quite gotten to her yet, but I will. And she comes running back to our beautiful place that we're at. And she's like, the monkeys, the howler monkeys, come the baby howler monkeys. And so we all like jogged off into the woods, which was like a minute away. And there were the baby monkeys, and they were so cute, and they were, they were throwing shit down at us. And it was great. But she had such love for these monkeys, yet in the next 30 to 40 years, Costa Rica has 4 species of monkeys: squirrels, capuchins, spiders, and howler monkeys. They're all going to be extinct. The number one reason is animal agriculture. So while she's doing her bulletproof coffee, she's causing the extinction of these beautiful creatures that are our closest companions on the earth. Why would we do that's like chopping down an 800-year-old tree. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Give them, they need land. Each howler monkey, the alpha male, needs a certain amount of acreage. You cut the trees down. We flew over Costa Rica on these little planes at 7,000 feet. We could see all the clear cuts.
Yeah, it's sad.
Costa Rica used to be 99% forested. It was like Amazon jungle, 99%. In 1940, it was 85%. And now today, there's only about 35% of the trees left.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, it seems like this, where I'm feeling it from you, this is where the activism piece does come in. It's like we can't just sit here and eat our broccoli. We actually have to do something about it.
There was a great speaker at the CalCon. There was this was a great conference. I'm thinking about not going to my naturopathic conference because I'm a little disillusioned. It's really expensive, and it's like, I'm really getting much out of this except for socialization with my friends. But where was I going with that? I had a really good train of thought.
I don't know. You're going
the conference, and this one guy gave this analogy. His name, not to be confused with Asprey. There's a guy, a vegan activist. He's from Australia. Tom
Asprey.
Dave Asprey. Dave Asprey.
Yeah.
Did a beautiful job speaking. And he's like, so, here's why I put this over here. You got a guy, and you got a dog, and he's got a stick, and he's beating the shit out of this dog. This defenseless dog, and just, beating the shit out of it, killing this dog. And you're standing by there. You got one of three options. You can do one. You can say, oh, man, that's fucked up, and you can turn away, and you can walk away and do nothing about it. The other thing is the guy offers you a stick, and you can grab a stick and start beating the dead animal or almost dead animal with the guy. That's option number 2. Number 3 option is, you could just go over there and take the stick and hit the guy in the balls with the stick and say, hey, that's not cool. You shouldn't do that. The choice is yours. And I thought, that's a really nice little analogy, because it's like, by walking away and say, oh, I would never beat dogs. I would not do that.
Bystander.
You're basically condoning what he's doing. Sorry, that's not acceptable. If you want to do some magic tricks like the guy, the Mikey vegan guy, and throw him away without beating the guy, that's fine too. But I think, you need to do something a little. In the movie Cowspiracy, there was the one scene, beautiful scene. I don't know if you remember the scene. The guy turns on the hose, and he's filling up the kiddie pool. And the water fills up the pool and starts spilling out into the yard and starts spilling out into the street and to the neighboring yards. Mm-hmm. And you go over there and you're like, I think you should maybe turn that water off. You're like, we're in California. You're wasting this precious
You
thing.
filled up the kiddie pool already.
Yeah, already. And now you're just wasting all. And that's the same like animal agriculture. It's the same thing. We need to turn the water off. Cape Town, Africa, has run out of fresh water. They no longer have fresh water. They have to ship their water in. It's being rationed. And yet they're still eating animals, for sure, cows, which 1 pound of beef is 2,500 gallons of water. Yeah. That's crazy. And people I had this conversation with Dr. Burkamp, one of our, superstars. And, he was won Naturopath of the Year award. And he just, he grew up on a farm in Kansas. And he still can't comprehend that animal agriculture has a bigger footprint than all of mass transit, trucks and cars and planes combined. Because you can't see it. You don't realize that you're transporting this beef, as it were, after they turn it into hamburgers. You're freezing it and you're refrigerating it, and it goes bad, and it's bad.
Man, I mean, we could go. We could go on and on.
Well, I'm fasting. I'm really getting tired. You can tell I'm really at the.
Well, I think it might be a good place to wrap up. I mean, I love the. I just want to maybe reiterate just the wisdom that you shared at the end here, which I took away at least was, keeping it fun.
Yeah.
Keeping it exciting.
Yeah.
Being inspired by the people you're around.
Yeah.
And by the food that you're eating.
Yeah.
And the social connection is like central.
It's everything.
It's everything.
That's
like, what's the point?
Yeah, the blues. We're our species was evolved into being in clans.
Yeah.
We look at chimpanzees and bonobos and blah blah blah. Incidentally, most primates are totally vegan. They eat a few ants here and there, but for the most part, they're vegan. Chimpanzees are a little weird. Maybe they got toxicants in their brain and stuff. But, you look at gorillas, how big they are, and they're vegetarians. They're totally vegans.
Yeah.
And look at the size of those guys. I mean, you don't need meat. No one needs meat. It's all in your head. You have it in your head. But, like you said, fun. Gotta have fun.
Well, Russell, it has been fun.
Yes.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And peace and love to all you audience out there.
Yeah.
And until next time.
Peace and love. Eat plants, pet animals. I have a T-shirt that I had a bunch of people want my T-shirt. It says, eat plants, pet animals. It's nice because it's like, you could say eat plants, not animals, but I like the pet animals thing, kind of.
You can still have the animals and appreciate them in a different way.
Yeah, just don't eat them. So.
All right, well,
okay.
Peace and
love. Thank you so much, Ben, for having me on
Until
your
next time.
podcast.
Yeah, well, you'll be back.
My whistle is wet. Oh, as Arnold said, I'll be back. I'll be back.
Yeah. All right. Until next time.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.